So guess what, everybody? The Democrats have come up with a strategy for the midterms. Surprise! They're going to talk about Trump nonstop. Here we go again. Now, look, I'm not against you bringing him up from time to time. Of course, he's leading on the Republican side to, win the primary in 2024. You can talk about him sometimes, but they want to make that the centerpiece. But he's not even on the ballot in the midterms, dog. What are you talking about? It just goes to show you they're offering nothing in terms of their own policy agenda and actually notching victories. So it's like, I don't know. Let's go back to our greatest hits. Trump's really bad. Trump's really bad. Trump's really bad. Isn't he really bad? Yeah. And then? You got anything else for me? So Politico says, Biden world wants to make the midterms more about Trump and hopes Elon Musk helps. Okay. So they want bring him back on Twitter, obviously. The election will be either a referendum or a contrast. The president's team prefers the latter. There are other options. You could legalize marijuana through executive order. You could abolish all student loan debt through executive order. You could free every nonviolent drug offender through executive order. You could actually not sit on your ass and try to propose some standalone bills on things that Manchin and Sinema say they're in favor of, like universal pre-K, for example, extended child tax credit. You can propose the standalone bills. You can give yourself more cracks at reconciliation so you only need 51 votes to get a bunch of things through, as opposed to 60. They're doing none of those things. None of them. None of them. Not one. He's sitting on his ass all day, and he just got bailed out by the Supreme Court because we learned that they're going to overturn Roe versus Wade, and so they don't even need to do anything now, and a bunch of Democrats are going to come out and vote for Democrats. All right. President Joe Biden and fellow Democrats have struggled to overcome historical headwinds and worrisome economic trends in the lead up to the midterms. I hate that framing. Historical headwinds, that's how they refer to it. As if it's just a fact of nature. It's a law of nature that the polls were going to swing against Democrats. Only if you don't deliver on shit. Let me remind you of something. Joe Biden had his highest approval rating right after he cut people $1,400 checks. It's almost like that's a popular thing to do, and it's almost like people will reward you if you do a popular thing by supporting you. He had like a 52 or 54% approval rating after that. So when you deliver for people, they deliver for you. They phrase this as like, it's just historical headwinds that are just changing. It was inevitable. It was not inevitable. It's not inevitable. It's not inevitable. For the love of God, FDR won the presidency 4 times. If the way it works is inevitable, then obviously he could never get more than like 2 terms because the historical headwinds are going to turn against him. Now, obviously at the time they didn't have term limits. Now we have term limits. It's a little bit different. But he also had 80% of Congress were Democrats. We've never seen anything like that in my lifetime. Why? Because nobody's delivering. Republicans don't deliver for the people, so they don't get 80% of Congress. Democrats don't deliver for the people, so they never get 80% of Congress. People have forgotten that shit like that is possible if you actually deliver. They've totally forgotten that. It's unbelievable. So aides are scheming up something else, turning the campaign into a contrast with Donald Trump and the Republicans. I love how they think this is a brilliant idea. A brilliant new idea. Guys, what if we said Trump was like really bad, bro? What if we were like, Donald Trump is not good. Vote for us. The year's going to be like 2048, and they're going to be like, Trump's so bad, bro. President Joe Biden and his team, actually no, by 2048 he will be rehabilitated, just like George W. Bush was rehabilitated, even though he was probably the worst president of my lifetime, worse than Donald Trump. President Joe Biden and his team are hoping to spend the spring and summer months drawing sharp distinctions with Republicans, one in particular. They still plan to push forth revived pieces of stalled agenda. No, they don't. But they're also eagerly awaiting potentially explosive findings from the January 6th Select Committee and hope those discoveries can inflame a battle brewing within the GOP over former Trump's legacy and power. See, this drives me crazy. Look, the January 6th thing, are there some things that are important that we're learning from that? Absolutely. We learned that they're openly floating memos calling for martial law and internally, basically every Republican, Sean Hannity, Marjorie Taylor Greene, everybody was like, make this stop on January 6th. Now their tune has changed massively, but so we're getting information that's important. I got it. But the whole point of the January 6th committee is to do political theater, to substitute for actually delivering on policy. So this way you can rile up the base just by saying, oh, look at this crazy stuff that's going on. Oh, man, the Republicans are so bad and crazy. And we have the video of what happened on January 6th. The idea you need a committee and you need an investigation. Bitch, we watched it live. Like, we saw what happened. What are you investigating? When you catch a crime on tape, then, okay, you have a speedy trial, and it's like, hey, here's the person committing the crime. Boom, done, lock it up, let's move along here. But they want to drag it out, and they want to drag it out for the reason Joe Manchin said. Joe Manchin was caught telling Republicans, hey, man, just so you know, you guys should give us this January 6th committee thing, because if we focus on the January 6th committee stuff, then we don't have to deliver on the policies that we said we were going to deliver on the economic agenda that we said we would deliver on. So it's a bait and switch. Hey, look at the loud noises going on over here. Don't you want to focus on that all day and don't look at the fact that we're not doing universal pre-K, we're not doing elder care, we're not expanding the child tax credit, we're not lowering the Medicare age, we're not lowering prescription drug prices? Like, it's so frustrating. Oh, it's so frustrating. Where was I? Biden, who has tried to pivot back towards domestic matters while also tending to the war in Ukraine, gave a hint of the upcoming strategy on his recent West Coast swing in which he blasted the GOP for falling under the control of far-right extremists. Quote, "This ain't your father's Republican Party," said Biden, who declared it the MAGA Party now, and that Republicans now, quote, "are afraid to act correctly because they know they'll be primaried if they don't toe the line set by Trump and his acolytes. The goal of turning the election into a contrast may be straightforward, but the execution is another matter entirely." This is crazy. They're parsing it out now. Look, that's not a long-term winning strategy. How do I know? Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe ran for governor in Virginia, and his platform was Donald Trump is bad. That was the centerpiece of every argument he made. Donald Trump is really bad. My opponent is linked to Donald Trump, and Youngkin ended up winning. Shouldn't that be all the evidence you need? The time has gone for that strategy? No, they're gonna keep doing it. They're gonna keep going all in on it. Where was I? I keep losing my place. And a number of outside... Wait, no. I'll just go back to the top. The goal of turning the election into a contrast may be straightforward, but the execution is another matter entirely. Previous efforts to reframe the conversation have failed, as the White House has been overtaken by outside forces, leaving the president unable to stay on message and Democrats frustrated with a lack of direction coming from the West Wing. And a number of outside groups and Democratic advisors have been baffled by a lack of coordination on key issues. 4 Democrats close to the White House said that officials there do not frequently provide surrogate talking points, a key component for any political operation to stay on message. Quote, "The political office does stuff, but they do it. It's because there is a thing." What? Said one of those Democrats. "There is not a standing meeting. This is more driven by if there is something to defend or sell." White House aides insisted that surrogate talking points are sent almost daily, but the lack of coordination has left outside officials frustrated. In particular, of late, Democrats felt empty-handed when asked to defend the administration's position on voting rights, the president's legislative agenda, and his decision to rescind Title 42, the Trump-era health directive that allows expulsion of migrants seeking asylum. By the way, I also love how pathetic this is, because this is like, on the one hand, yes, you want to all have the same talking points, be on the same page, and hammer that home. That's what the Republicans do so well. But on the other hand, it's like, are you guys really that stupid that you don't know how to argue basic policy stuff? And the answer is yes. They're empty suits. They're vapid careerists. They're not actually there to do good for people. They're like picked by their corporate donors. So, Jesus Christ. And by the way, it's not like the talking points coming from the White House are good. Like, they're the most milquetoast, banal bullshit you've ever seen. They're not like Bernie Sanders talking points. There has been frustration in the White House and among some outside groups about the lack of cover and political push from the Democratic National Committee. The move by Cedric Richmond, a White House senior advisor, to leave the administration and become a senior advisor to the DNC was interpreted as a sign by many as an effort by the White House to get more control over the party. As the White House seeks to turn the election into a contrast with the Republicans, it encounters a trio of stubborn realities. Biden's poll numbers are low, super low. Inflation is high, and Democrats' margins in Congress are slim. The president has received high marks from foreign policy experts, and even some Republicans, that tells you all you need to know, for his handling of the war in Ukraine, helping rally Europe to hold Vladimir Putin's invasion at bay. But the conflict has put a strain on energy costs, and only adding to inflation that has soared to 40-year highs. Skyrocketing consumer prices per polling looms as the decisive issue for this November's elections. Joe Biden and House Democrats are woefully out of touch and have shredded any and all credibility on this issue when they embarrassingly claimed that inflation is transitory, said Representative Elise Stefanik, Republican of New York, chair of the House GOP Conference, and now condescendingly attempts to convince the American people to blame Putin for Bidenflation. Yeah, that was so stupid. See, this is what I'm saying. Their talking points are stupid. This is Putin's fault that the gas prices are high, you know what I'm saying? No, it's not. Every expert who looks at it is like, no, that's not true, and it went up even before the stuff happened in Russia. But the White House has renewed hope that it could change the conversation. Biden aides have been delighted to watch growing division within the GOP, as House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy has fended off bitterness within the ranks after a series of revelations about his critical words for Trump and right-wing caucus members after the January 6th Capitol riot. Yeah, but that, again, total misnomer. The idea that because there's infighting in the party, that makes the party less strong. No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. I don't know if you remember 2015 and 2016. Trump ripped all the other Republicans to shreds, and then he won the general election against Hillary Clinton. Like, this is just wishful thinking. Like, oh, they're fighting, so now we're going to do well and win. What? Additionally, there is growing hope that the House committee investigating the insurrection may produce damaging findings against Trump and other key Republicans. How many times has there been bombshell story, breaking news story, Trump did this, Trump did that, here's a scandal, there's a scandal, everywhere's a Trump scandal, and then he just brushes it off and moves on. If you hate him, like I do, or you like him, it doesn't matter. It's obvious to tell he weathers scandals easily because people's moral outrage meter is broken. Like, the Democrats don't know what actually is a scandal and was just like a stupid thing. Like, remember, they thought they would get him on like his affairs. They thought that would be like, this is going to bring this guy down. They thought the grab him by the pussy thing, this is going to bring this guy down. It didn't work. And still to this day, they're like, they're going to have some amazing findings that bring him down. It hasn't to this point. Oh my God. The committee plans to begin holding primetime hearings this June. Biden advisors have also tried to game out this week the possibility of one particular October surprise. Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter raised the chance that Trump could be reinstated on the social media platform where he had more than 80 million followers before being banned in the wake of the January 6th riot. Now, by the way, I think on that one, they have a point. Because Trump, when he was on Twitter, he honestly, I'm arguing myself out of it in my own head right now. It's possible it hurts him because he's a psycho, and when people see that the psycho keeps talking, they're like, that guy's psycho. So it could drive his poll numbers down, but it also they could be the same, or they could go up. I don't know. It all depends, but it is. I'll give them half credit for this one. It is possible that if he gets back on Twitter, that it actually hurts him and doesn't help him. It is true. Look at George W. Bush. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. George W. Bush, when he was out of the public eye, his approval numbers went up. Happened with Hillary, too, for a while, before she ran in 2016. She was out of the public eye for a while, and her poll numbers went up. And so, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So, Trump has been off Twitter. That means he's less visible, and his poll numbers right now are not terrible. He's still doing rallies and stuff, but he's not nearly as visible as he was. So, I don't know. It's possible that it's true that Elon lets him back on, which, by the way, as a matter of principle, I think he should. But it could hurt Trump. It definitely could hurt Trump. That's possible. And while the ex-president has claimed he doesn't want back on, the White House does not believe him. Yeah, I don't think anybody believes him. But he does have Truth Social, and so he has a financial reason to only be on Truth Social. Who knows? The consensus among Biden aides about Trump's possible return, it could cut both ways. While the former president would eat up an extraordinary amount of political oxygen, it's also possible that he would push the big lie or feud with fellow Republicans and damage the GOP's otherwise strong chances of regaining at least one House of Congress. The more the election becomes about Trump, the better the Democrats' chances become. Many in Biden's orbit believe. Yeah, but again, they thought that in 2016. Hillary did the Pied Piper strategy. Let's boost up Trump so that we run against him because we think there's no way we lose to that guy, and then they lost to him. So, I mean, the conventional wisdom before 2016 was that Jeb Bush was going to be the nominee, or like Marco Rubio. And these people have the charisma of a dirty diaper. Biden and his team and Democratic consultants don't know what the fuck they're talking about and what the fuck they're doing. Okay, I think you guys get the point of this article. They're one-trick ponies. They're one-trick ponies. And this is what you have to do when you have no serious agenda to run on, you have no accomplishments to run on, and you're refusing to do the things you need to do. Everybody who wrote articles comparing Biden to FDR should be launched into the sun, because he is the anti-FDR. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.